So we've heard a lot from Republican members of Congress and from the administration itself, signaling the importance of this moment, that we've gone from 1 page to 2 pages to 9 pages now. We have a framework for tax reform, or at least how they'd like to proceed with it. What's your reaction to what you've seen of that so far?
Well, good to be with you, David. It is just a framework, so one has to be a little cautious because a lot of the details aren't there. But from what I've seen, there's some pretty dangerous ideas that are out there. The kind of fantasy that you can do $5 to $6 trillion of tax cuts and have them pay for themselves is just that. It's fantasy. And fantasy may be good for fiction, but it isn't good for fiscal policy. We've tried this experiment before. We tried it in 1981. We tried it in 2001. We tried it in 2003. It didn't work, and the deficit exploded each time. Just this last couple of years, it was tried in Kansas, and a Republican state repealed its tax cut because it wasn't working. I think that if the Congress puts kind of hope and fantasy over experience, it's going to unleash some very dangerous forces, and a deficit that spirals out of control becomes a threat to everything from vulnerable elderly people on Social Security to our national defense. So I think that the first and foremost thing is it has to be done with honest numbers. It has to be done in a realistic way, and we can't turn around and find out that we've destroyed our fiscal condition.
Let me ask you about one component part of it in particular, that with pass-through entities. There's a provision in the framework that says there's going to be a preventative measure that keeps salary earners from abusing that. What do you make of that, and how do you prevent that from happening? What does that mean for the IRS, for instance, and how they would have to enforce that?
I think the pass-through proposal is a very dangerous one. The idea that you can police it is something that I don't think anyone knows how to deliver on, knows how to execute. It is very easy to reorganize on paper as a partnership or as an entity that can take advantage of pass-through rules. And if the rate for pass-throughs is 25%, and if the rate as an individual is 35%, I guarantee you that anyone who can will reorganize. They just did in the Kansas experiment. They created a pass-through rate, and they had an enormous increase in pass-through filers. The coach of the university football team reorganized as a pass-through. It's really hard to police. I think it becomes something that could become an enormously expensive provision, the kind of loophole that years from now people say, how did you ever create that? And it will contribute to the inequity and unfairness of the tax system because it will just deliver a tax break to the most fortunate.